8:37 here at Big 550 KTRS. David Stokes is with us from the Show Me Institute. Good morning, David Stokes.
Good morning, McGraw.
Let's talk about your trip to the CPAC convention Saturday morning. Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
What's the big deal? You had a nice little drive from University City out to Chesterfield. It was a nice morning. What's the problem?
Well, there was no problem because I drove the speed limit because I'm aware of what St. Anne does along I-70.
Aha!
The CPAC was in St. Charles, actually. So, living in U City, I take the inner belt up to I-70.
Right past the airport.
Right past the airport, and sure enough, like they are almost every day. I mean, St. Anne, which I think now has the title of the worst speed trap in the St. Louis area. I think
better than Ladue over there on Highway 40?
Well, I think Rock Hill is the mid-county.
Rock Hill is up there.
The mid-county weight class champion. St. Anne is trying to win the whole total class. Sure enough, they've got multiple cars out on Saturday morning at 9:30, pulling people over. Like there's so many dangerous drivers on Saturday morning at 9:30 or 10. And I drive past because I live in U City and I'm on the Interbelt or 70 somewhat frequently. I drive the area and there's just always police cars out there. It's a near constant. It's not a speed trap that they have once in a while. It's an almost constant surge of writing speeding tickets near the airport to basically fund local St. Anne government, and it's terrible.
But this isn't a speed camera. This isn't a red light. These are actual police officers with the speed gun clocking people going the speed limit or over the speed limit. So in that sense, the speed limit says 65 or whatever it says, 55, and if you're going over the speed limit, why doesn't St. Anne have a right to then write you a ticket?
Well, they shouldn't have a right to fund local government through traffic tickets. If they were out there enforcing it for safety, that'd be a different argument. But they're not. I mean, they're writing tickets at less than 10 miles an hour over. I mean, they're writing from what I've heard from people out there, you can get a ticket at 6 or 7 miles an hour over, and they're basically doing it at that level. They're doing it to fund their city. They've had Northwest Plaza, who is not funding the city like it used to a decade ago or longer.
Right.
And they, like many other cities in Missouri, are funding local government off of traffic ticket revenue, and that's terrible. And the state, about a decade ago, a little longer, attempted to pass a law called the Max Creek Law, which limited the amount of money any one city can raise from traffic tickets. And while that law worked for Max Creek, which last year had to disincorporate because they no longer had any money, they did. They went the way of St. George and disincorporated the whole city. It has a number of loopholes to it, so it really needs to be tightened. So the law is based just about on what you can do on state roads. It needs to be expanded beyond that. Cities really shouldn't be able to raise more than about 10% of their local revenue from traffic tickets, in my opinion. And there are many cities, St. Anne just the most ostentatious right now, that are doing more than that.
While I agree with you to a large extent, let me play devil's advocate. Because, again, if a city can fund its government by fining people who are doing things over the speed limit, why not? They're not posting the speed limit at 60 and giving people tickets for going 55. So they post the law. The law is broken. Why can't these people collect as much money as possible from these ne'er-do-wells who are speeding through their town?
And they would say that, like when Dave Stokes drives through St. Anne, I go 60 miles an hour.
Right.
So because it's insane how you get there. Well, they can. I mean, they do it, so they can to some degree. But it is an abuse of the system. The system was not set up to fund local government. This is a interstate highway that people from all over the country are traveling. And when you are writing tickets at 67, 68, which is perfectly safe on that stretch of road, to fund your police, your zoning, your parks, whatever you want. I mean, that is beyond the purpose that the traffic system was set up for. And I know devil's advocate, it's great. It's hard to say, how do you defend somebody who is technically breaking the law going 65 into 60? But I mean, that is an abuse. It's just simply, I'd have to say it's an abuse of our overall system.
I got a ticket recently on the Page Avenue extension from the Maryland Heights Police. And I was going whatever I was going. The guy comes to me and says, I'm going to write you a ticket for 1 mile per hour less than a really, really bad fine. So I was clearly way over the speed limit. He reduced this, so he wrote it, whatever it was. So what am I going to do with this ticket? I'm going to take it to a lawyer. I'm going to say, deal with this. I'm going to pay the lawyer $50, $60. He's going to call me up in 3 months and say, all right, you're going to plead guilty to excessive noise, a $200 fine, pay your fine. My problem isn't the excessive tickets in St. Anne. My problem is the way we handle them. If I'm guilty of speeding, shouldn't I be convicted of speeding? And why am I pleading guilty to excessive noise when I wasn't loud? My radio was off. I mean, the whole system seems fraudulent.
Well, for somebody, from New York who comes here and all of a sudden, oh, you got a speeding ticket. Well, here's how it's done in Missouri.
Right.
It's not like there's 49 states you would get your speeding ticket and pay your fine. Yeah, we have a unique system in Missouri for handling speeding tickets. And someday there'll be a class action filed on behalf of the ear damage to all the Missourians who live with this constant vehicular noise. Because I'm certain that we have more noisy muffler violations than any other state combined.
And then what about the insurance companies never told that I'm now caught speeding now for the 6th time in 10 years? So my insurance doesn't go up, but yet I'm still guilty of this crime. It seems like that's a total racket.
Right, and I have to presume that the insurance companies have sort of priced the Missouri system into insurance here so that everybody's paying a little bit more because they're aware that the people who speed a great deal aren't paying excessively more like they would be in other states. So I'm sure that the insurance companies aren't, wow, nobody gets a speeding ticket in Missouri. They sure are safe drivers. I think they've probably priced it. So at some point, an insurance agent in the state had to get their own speeding ticket and got the ticket amended. It was like, wait a minute, that's how it's done here.
Well, what type of idiot do you have to be to actually get convicted of a speeding ticket in the state of Missouri, right?
Well, it helps to just not be from Missouri. Just move here and then send your money in.
I actually think when I first came to town and I got a speeding ticket, I don't know, I was a year or two in and I paid it, and they're like, what are you, an idiot? No, go to see the guy in the corner that says, we'll fix traffic ticket for $50? Go to that guy. I'm like, well, what is he going to do? They're like, just shut up and go there. I'm like, I got this ticket, and it was like an assembly line. Sign this, give me your card, we'll call you. 6 months later, they're like, all right, send us a check for $300. What? So, I mean, talk about just sitting back and enjoying the ride.
Well, it's definitely a state where it helps to have a friend who's a lawyer.
That's true, too. What's your thought on red light cameras?
Well, I think red light cameras are I've listened to what you've been talking about them for years now. I agree completely with you. I mean, they're another abuse of the process. They're trying you, convicting you, and everything, all based on a photograph that doesn't really have all that much information. There's a lot of errors in these.
What are your thoughts on speeding camera tickets?
I think they're awful too. And the state legislature, the state government, not the legislature per se, the government has done a pretty good job of at least limiting their use on state roads. I'd like to see the legislature pass some laws limiting them on local roads as well. I don't think that tiny city A with 300 people should be able to post a speed camera on its little city road to issue speeding fines all day and all night, again, to fund local government in Missouri.
You know what I find fascinating about you being a local control guy is that you want the state legislature to tell the local towns how to run.
The more I study government, and I study government a lot.
Right, that's your job.
Sort of my job.
Because you think all day about it because you work at a think tank.
I find myself, I like counties in the state and dislike the feds in the cities more and more. There is a lot of abuse in cities in Missouri, and whether they be conservative cities in West County or liberal cities in North County, it breaks down. There's no partisan angle on this.
So you like counties and states. You like the Fed. You don't like the feds and cities.
I find that there's
so super big and super small, but state and county is okay.
Yeah, you put that well. They seem at the kind of there seems to be less prohibitive abuse than you see in very small cities throughout anybody who's been in St. Louis for any length of time knows exactly what I'm talking about. There's cities with always on the make for more revenue, for more handouts for special businesses, for the new TIF, for the new red light camera. So few of them, and there are exceptions, thankfully.
Right.
Just hold back and say, let's hold our services to a simple level and try and function, try and do a few things well and keep our taxes low.
St. Louis County excluded, at least the current situation with St. Louis County excluded, right, with the police board and all that other stuff.
I think St. Louis County has, generally speaking, ever since it was the first charter county in the state, and I think the people of St. Louis County demand a level of competence from county government. And I think, generally speaking, St. Louis County government operates very well. They have a very good merit system for many of the employees within the county. And I'll say this true under the Republicans who used to dominate the county government and the Democrats who now do, that I think it's a pretty well-run overall organization. That said, yes, there's been some important local scandals in the past few years that are getting a lot of attention, deservedly so.
David Stokes with the Show Me Institute. Always a pleasure. And a little tip for you. When you're going through St. Anne, go the speed limit.
I have learned that tip.
David Stokes from the Show Me Institute and the Big 550 KTRS. All he does is sit around and think all day. It's a pretty good gig.
Thanks, McGraw.
847, the Big 550